Hello, this is Sri Harsha Ravuri. This is my submission for assignment 4. So let's get into it. So I'm just going to very quickly walk through what's already given. So essentially this is visualizing the Titanic dataset using a pie chart and using a bar chart. The code that is provided already takes in the CSV, which is Titanic_train.csv, and then it reads through that CSV and adds that to lines, and lines is a list. And this is what the CSV looks like. So we have multiple fields. We have passengers, survived, P class, name, etc. And then what the assignment wants is for us to store the data in the data structure respective to their columns. So the way it's stored in lines after this part of the code is it saves every single row as part of the list. So for example, the first row will have the column names, passenger ID, survived, P class, name, etc. And the second row will have 1, 0, 3, etc. So arranging it in order of the respective column names would mean having one list for all of this, having one list for all of this. So passenger ID, these are all the passenger IDs, these are all the survived data, this is all the P class for the passengers, these are all the names, this is all the sex. So that's what the first action item is. The next action item is to extract the following fields. So that's survived, P class, age, and gender for the passengers who survived. And then the next step is to generate plots for the following criteria. So the first criteria is a pie chart, and the second criteria is a bar chart. So let's get into the code. So I import, matplotlib.pyplot, and then I do from matplotlib import pyplot as plt. I'm also using collections and importing counter, and we'll see in a minute why that's needed. And then I'm also importing numpy and storing it as np. Okay, so we already know that the first line of the list is the names of the columns, so passenger ID, survived, P class, name, etc. So we're going to take the first line and store it in column names. And then we're going to remove that, because if we don't remove that later on in the code when we're trying to find the other column name attributes, we're gonna have problems. So we're gonna remove that. And then next, we know that the index for survived is 1, for P class is 2, for sex is 4, for age is 5 in each row. So we're gonna make empty arrays for all of these, and then we're gonna start looping through the lines, aka the rows, in the data structure that is already created in the code here. So we're gonna start looping through that, and we know that survived, we're gonna need to find the survived information, because that's what's gonna let us know whether the passenger has survived or not. So that's the first thing we're gonna need to do. So that will be line of 1. So that would be this one right here. So passenger ID is a line of 0, survived as line of 1. After that, we're gonna separate things based on who survived and who didn't. So if line of 1, which means if survived is 1, that means that the passenger has survived. So we're gonna append to sex survived array that specific number. and else we're gonna do sex not survived dot append the number, which will be 0. So essentially, sex survived will have the appropriate number based on the fact that the passenger survived, and sex not survived will have the appropriate numbers based on the fact that the passengers didn't survive. So essentially, that means that this is a list that's going to have the number of people that have survived, and this is a list, and the number of people, which is the length of the list, is going to be the number of people that have not survived. And we're going to append to age as well from this this specific CSV, and age is, I believe, 5. Index 5. Okay, so now we're gonna construct the charts. So for the pie chart, we're gonna do the labels, which will be survived and did not survive. Then the survive counter is to define a counter, essentially, to find the number of people that have survived. And then we're gonna find the number of people that have not survived. And obviously, number of people survived is 1, number of people not survived is 0. Not the number, that is the representation. So once we use these 2 lines right here of code, we're gonna have exactly the number of people that have survived and the number of people that have not survived. And then the sizes for the pie chart are gonna be the survived and the did not survive people. And then the next step will be, printing the pie chart. And this is the syntax for printing it. And I'm using the colors blue and red. So this is what it's gonna look like. That's the survived. That's the did not survive. Next, we have the bar chart. And we're gonna calculate the number of people that have survived. And that is the sex. So male survived equals sex survived counter of male. Female survived is sex survived counter of female. So we're calculating the number of males that have survived and the number of females that have survived. And then the genders for the chart, which will basically be the x-axis, will be male survived and female survived. And the survive for chart, which is the y-axis, is going to be the male survived and then the female survived. And then I'm using the colors blue and yellow. And once that's executed, this is what it's going to look like. And that's the code. That's the program.